We begin today with another twist in the Bradley Manning case. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange says the whistleblowing website has more U.S. government secrets, but is going to hold off publishing them until the private first class is released. He told Australian news outlet Fairfax Media, quote, "We still can't publish it. It would be a questionable action to do so now, while Bradley Manning has a potential life sentence hanging over his head." Late last week, Manning pleaded guilty to 10 of the 22 lesser charges against him. He pleaded not guilty to the most serious charge, aiding the enemy. In accepting responsibility for the dump of classified documents, Manning said he leaked it all to spark public debate over U.S. foreign policy. For more on the new classified documents WikiLeaks says it has and what this could mean for the Manning case, I'm joined now by Jesslyn Raddick, Director for National Security and Human Rights at the Government Accountability Project. Jesslyn, nice to see you.
Hey, great to see you.
So Julian Assange is saying he will not release these new documents to protect Manning, but could this actually be fuel for the government to continue to hold him?
Yeah, I don't think the government could possibly have any more fuel than it's already added to its own self-made fire. I think Assange is trying to protect his source, and I think he doesn't want to further inflame the government, the U.S. government, by releasing these documents. And Manning had referred to these documents in his 35-page statement that he made on the 28th.
The additional documents that Assange is now withholding.
Exactly.
How did Manning reference these documents?
He spoke about the incident of these documents, a February 2010 incident in which the Iraqi federal police arrested, detained, and tortured opponents of Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. And Manning had been tasked with catching these bad guys, and upon investigation, found out that they really had no connection to terrorism, and that these were really just scholarly leaflets that had been made. And although Manning is often criticized for not having gone up his chain of command, he did go up his chain of command with this, and he was told to drop it and to continue investigating other places that might be printing things in opposition to the government.
Now, Manning, in his 35-page testimony last week, he had already accepted responsibility for leaking these documents. So what's the incentive there for Assange to continue to hold on to them when he's already kind of fessed up to leaking them?
I think because the actual documents are probably far more incendiary than the brief description that Manning gave in the 35-page statement. I mean, it's different to talk about a helicopter video versus actually seeing it. And at this point, I mean, I take Assange at his word. All along, he's been speaking out on behalf of Bradley Manning and trying to protect him. And because it ended up being referenced as part of the plea, I think he felt the need to say something.
Right. And of course, we haven't seen these documents, but it's kind of raising these questions as what could they possibly contain if he's holding on to them? Could it be an indication that the documents contain some kind of damning information, something even more explosive than what we've seen so far come out of the existing documents?
You know, I think if it had more damning information, that might be an argument in favor of releasing them now. It could help or hurt Manning. I mean, it might help him because people would be more sympathetic with why he blew the whistle, but it could also really hurt him by, again, further exacerbating the government's vitriol that it's already demonstrated by continuing this prosecution even after the plea. After the plea, they could have dropped it, and they've chosen to go forward with aiding the enemy and Espionage Act charges.
It's also kind of calling these other questions. I mean, Julian Assange, he has kind of said himself, kind of prides himself on being a whistleblower, as doing a job that other media outlets won't do by disclosing these things. And now he's holding back. So it kind of makes you wonder what effect Manning has had on whistleblowers and people more hesitant to put information out there. for fear of what the retaliation could be, for what the consequences could be?
Well, I think normally when the mainstream media sits on information, it's because they've been convinced that it's going to harm the government in some kind of way. Here, it's different. He doesn't want to do anything that would compromise a potential source. And in fact, up until the time Bradley entered his plea, Assange always maintained, that if Manning is a person, he never confirmed that. So for him, I think the motivation is quite different for holding on to the documents, and also some pretty outlandish arguments have been made about how WikiLeaks aided the enemy. Just the very fact that WikiLeaks documents were found in Osama bin Laden's compound, that somehow proved Manning aided the enemy, which is such a broad argument.
Well, this trial is set to start in a couple of months. Maybe that is a wise decision. Jeslyn, it's a pleasure, as always, to have you on the show.
Thank you.
That was Jeslyn Raddick, Director for National Security and Human Rights at the Government Accountability Project.